It is 6 o'clock, and we would like to call this Brunswick City Commission regular scheduled commission meeting for Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025 to order. If we can all please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. For our invocation, we will have Pastor Jeffrey Mutchison of Calvary Christian Center, but also a president and leader of our Magnolia Park College Park MPA. Thank you for your leadership and everything that you've done.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this meeting tonight with our city officials and all the participants. And God, we just ask for your wisdom, your guidance, and we thank you for their service as well, Father God, as taking care of the business of the people. And we're thankful, I know in my community, for what all that the city have done in the College Park community and just showing what community can do when we come together. So, Father, we ask for your wisdom. We ask for your guidance. We ask that everything be done decently and in order and a productive meeting, all to your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic which stands, a nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. We will now move on to the approval of the agenda and the adoption of the July 2nd, 2025 regular meeting agenda. Is there any addendums or subtractions?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one addition to the addendum, to the agenda this evening.
Yes, sir.
Item number 9A, consider approval of memorandum of understanding between the city of Brunswick and Eckerd Connects.
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes and the agenda is amended. Any other addendums or subtractions? Hearing none, we will open it for a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion to accept the agenda as printed, amended.
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. With that, we will move on to number 2, Live Oak Fiber, Vice President Randy Weinberger to give a presentation regarding discounted internet service to qualified residents. Thank you so much for joining us. I was able to spend some time with you all's company's leadership and talking about getting access and more available access to our community. We thank you for being a great business partner and corporate citizen here in Brunswick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. I'm Randy Weinberger. I work at Live Oak Fiber. For those of you that don't know us, we are the local internet provider. We're based right here in Brunswick, and we just celebrated our 3rd anniversary yesterday. Nice. So some people didn't think we'd get this far. I'd also like to pass along thanks to the citizens of Brunswick for the opportunity to be based here, for the workforce, for being our customers, for being our partners with local businesses, and also, quite frankly, for your patience. Building new infrastructure in cities that are older, historic, is difficult and messy sometimes. And we do our best, but it can get messy. So we do thank everyone for the patience through the process, and it is now over. So upward and onward. Our mission has always been from day one to improve the lives in the communities we serve through technology. You cannot participate in the modern economy without reliable connectivity. My 18-year-old son needed to get a summer job at the insistence of his father. And so to work at a coffee shop, he would go in. I said, just go knock on a few doors, bring your resume. They all told him to go online and apply online. I mean, he literally couldn't get a summer job without it. And that's not to mention education, healthcare, everything that you want to do in a modern economy has to be done online. And oftentimes the people that need connectivity, reliable connectivity the most are the ones that are excluded. Look, you want to keep the lights on, you want to keep gas in your car, paying broadband is another bill. What we are introducing, it's live now, its official introduction is next week to the qualified citizens of Brunswick, is a low-cost internet option. It is $35 all in, no taxes, no fees, no anything. Comes with all the equipment you need. Gives you 150 megabytes up and down, which means that if you need to get on a video call with your doctor or your teacher or your boss, you can do so without it skipping. When all your neighbors are online in the evening when it's homework time and everybody's surfing the web, your internet will still work. And you all know that it's buried underneath the ground. So when storms roll through, it's going to stay on. So there will be, it's a month-to-month service, just like all of our other services. You'll call the same customer support. You'll get the same truck rolls. There is nothing different other than the price and the speed. And so we're very proud to offer this starting right now. For those folks that are interested, put the URL on the slide. They can also call. We will ask if you qualify for certain government programs. We just want to make sure that this is getting to the right folks. And we'll check that once a year. But other than that, you can just go online and sign up.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Questions or comments from the commission?
I just have a comment. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Long time coming, and we appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. With that, we will move on to items to consider for approval. Number 3, consider approval of June 18, 2025 regular scheduled meeting minutes. Clerk Atkinson, no changes. Commission, any addendums or subtractions? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve June 18th, 2025 regular scheduled meeting minutes.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We'll move on to number 4, consider approval of third-party operator contract for transit services. Director Hunter.
Get my screen going here. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm happy to be here this evening, as this is a major hurdle that we've been working toward for the last 5 years, and seeing it to start coming to fruition. Tonight before you have our contract and service order for our third-party operator for our transit system. As y'all know, we've been working on developing a microtransit program for Brunswick and parts of Glenn County. Microtransit is, for lack of a better way to describe it, is basically just like Uber. It will work within a certain area within the county. It is designed to really service everyone. But in particular, it is to address the needs of our workforce and the needs of our community in general. It's something that we've worked hard to look at. Where are our employers? Where are our employees? Where are they coming from? Where are they going? So that we can get people to where they need to go. Because transportation is challenging in Brunswick. We do have a good percentage of the population without cars. We have a good percentage of families that only have one vehicle, and being able to get to and from work or to and from a doctor is the difference between having a job and not having a job. And this is a quality of life issue for our community that this commission and the previous commission put us on a path toward. And hopefully we are able to start addressing those needs. We'll be able to enhance mobility throughout the community. Obviously, this is an economic development tool that will be able to support our workforce. It provides social equity and community connections. And the model that we're using is a cost-effective look at how to provide transit support for a community. This last leg of this process began last August when we were approved by GDOT to issue our RFP for our third-party operator. That resulted in 6 responses. We interviewed the top 3 candidates, and in April of this year, GDOT confirmed our selection and allowed us to begin negotiations. So May and June were spent working with our provider on getting a contract ready and starting to look at our milestones to set up the service. Our selected provider is VIA. They are considered the country, if not the world's leading provider of this type of program and service. They service 750 communities in 40 countries. And right here in Georgia, they're already providing services to Valdosta, Hall County, and Buckhead. So they're very familiar with our territory. Our program in the first year will be focused in the area that you see mapped and surrounded by blue on the map. This is the core part of what the Federal Transit Administration has designated as the urbanized area of Brunswick. That's all related on census data and where people live and work. That is not all of the urbanized area within Glenn County, but it is what's contiguous to the city immediately. And that's our place to start. And it's the core of our community. In our second phase, we propose adding in the core parts of St. Simons, which is eligible as part of this funding as well and is considered part of the Brunswick St. Simons urbanized area. So, FTA classifies it. This contract is primarily, I believe, for 3 years with 1-year extensions that would take it to 5 years. The cost ranges from the contract costs ranges from $1.1 million in the first year up later in the 5th year to about $1.8 million. FTA funding will provide at least half of that as we go forward. There are some opportunities for us to reduce our local match requirement based on different types of funding sources, but also how some of the different activities that we do are classified so that hopefully we can get that required match down from 50% down closer to 40 or 35% over time. There's also the possibility to generate more revenues. We have calculated in a very conservative fare approach starting out. Our fares are targeted at about 5% of our overall operating costs. And that's based on a $3 fare, which in that first year would mean we would only need 19,000 riders. So we do have an opportunity there to probably increase the amount of money that we bring in through fares, but also still be affordable to our community. We will work with VIA as we start onboarding with them next week to finalize our time and times of operation and our scheduling. In our RFP, we put out from, I think, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. so we could have some dollars to dollars comparisons. One of the things that this service does is it is incredibly flexible. So as they continue to operate, they will hone in on what are the best and most efficient operating times, what are peak times and what are down times, so that we have drivers available during peak, but not sitting around during non-peak. It's very data-driven and very app-oriented. We will have the capability of booking rides through a telephone line. VIA will provide all of the customer support. We will have a liaison working with them from the city, obviously, to deal with any issues that arise and also work on our funding. But they provide that support. It does have the capability for us to use passes or vouchers. So as we work with our community and grow, we're able to have employers purchase passes for their employees. Different nonprofits may be able to issue passes to help riders get to their destinations and on and on. The service will be focused within 5 to 7 passenger vans, and will be wheelchair accessibility at all times. As y'all know, we've been working with many partners over the last few years as we've been working to reach this goal. And our major employers, including the hospital, hotel motel owners, College of Coastal Georgia, we've worked very closely with them to understand their needs, and I believe everybody is very enthusiastic about having this program available. Once the contract has been approved, we will be working toward a public launch date in hopefully in first Friday on the 1st of October. We will potentially go live before that as kind of a soft opening, but the big public opening will be around that first Friday in October date. And VIA will work with us closely on between now and then. They'll be ramping up hiring. We'll be working on a branding initiative to settle on what we were calling this, what it will look like, and work with us also on the publicity and the big kickoff event as we start this public effort. So that is a very quick synopsis. There's a lot of information in your packet, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have. And again, excited to be bringing this to you today.
Questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Hunter, I have a couple questions. One, where would the vehicles be parked or stored?
So at least tentatively, we've talked about up at Public Works in their
Lakewood?
on their gated area off of Lakewood. That is a good central location within the community, as opposed to if we had them somewhere like their parking lot at 503 Mansfield or something like that.
Okay. Will they be running, so they would start off with 4 fleets to start the launch? Or how many vehicles will we start with?
I need to go back and look for certain. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5
Okay,
to start off with.
okay. Will it be running on holidays, or
Yes.
is there's an extra fee by the company to us for running on holidays?
No, their fees are based on hours of service, not days. So that's part of the negotiating, and that's part of why within the RFP, we established a baseline of hours of operation and days of operation. So everything rolls around that, but we anticipated operating 7 days a week.
Okay. And it will be from 6 to 10, not 6 to 9?
That's still somewhat fluid. I think initially, I think we had talked about, I'll need to go back and look for sure in the RFP and in the contract.
Okay.
But that is part of what kind of our feeling out time is to understand is what is going to be the best operating hours. There's possibility that we could look at some things like, particularly as we expand onto St. Simon's, that we may need to shift certain services even later to be able to address our workforce needs. But right now, I believe that's centered around 10 o'clock.
Okay. I know we are going, because this is a service to our community, but if Glenn County doesn't decide they want to, Glenn County government decide they do not want to contribute, we are still going forward?
Yes. I mean, that's the direction I've been given from the very beginning, because From the time we started this, Glenn County told us no at the very beginning when we started this, really in 2019. I took it over in 2020, but in many communities, this grow in the what are called the smaller metropolitan areas like what we have or what Hinesville has, their metropolitan planning organization, what we call BATS, has been the driving force behind the planning side of this. And the county told us when we started this effort that we were on our own. Ms. McDuffie, and I know many of you have had many detailed conversations with the county commissioners about how important this is for their community as a whole. I agree with that wholeheartedly, especially as we get into, if we're able to expand to the second year, which I believe we will, onto St. Simons, 60% of our service area will be in the county and not in the city. But I do agree that it is incredibly important to our community that this go forward. But that's part of the risk that, and you were not part of the commission at the time, but I know Commissioner Harris was one of our big cheerleaders in moving this forward and saying, we've been talking for 20 years at that point about doing something, and the time was now to do something. So,
Thank you.
And we will continue to work with them. We presented to them and basically they asked us to get with their personnel, their staff, their grant administrator, and talk about how we can look at funding for outside areas of the rural areas versus the urbanized. So we'll continue to work with them and hope that, they will come on board as soon as possible. Sorry about that.
And I just want to sound the clarion horn for Mr. Hunter and for CM McDuffie, because you all have worked diligently, not leaving the other administrative offices or staffing off, but you all have presented to them. We've had multiple conversations with them. And as I listened in the presentation, and I continue to listen and have conversations, it is imperative to the entirety that it is understood that the city jurisdiction is still also county. And so when we look at the entirety of this effort, I think we need to look at the broader picture that the citizens of the city are also county residents as well, and that we do pay county taxes as well. And so when we're talking about the double dipping of dollars, we have to magnify that so that it is clearly understood that all city residents pay county taxes as well. And so when we're looking at the return on investment, we also have to look at the intangibles. When we're considering return on investment, we have to understand that this is not the norm in which you consider a return on investment, but the return on investment is the ability to staff growth in industries, the ability to get the workforce where the workforce needs to be. It's so many unmentioned intangibles that come to factor into the consideration of this being a great opportunity, and the return on investment is immeasurable. And so I think we need not to be short-sighted. And when we're looking at the traditional return on investment, but we need to look at the entirety and how to measure the actual return on investment. And so I commend you all for all that you've done and all that you continue to do. And I thank the county for where they are in their consideration. And I think that they have sound minds on that commission, that they too can recognize that this is a good opportunity for the entirety of the city as well as the county.
I have a couple questions, Mr. Hunter, just regarding some technical things. So You mentioned that potentially we'll be storing the vehicles at the Public Works yard. Is there any requirements in terms of the storage of the vehicles from the vendor, i.e. do they need to be covered? Do they need to be in a, there's no requirement?
No.
Okay, that's good. I would say that as we roll this program out and look, and maybe it's not in this fiscal year's budget, but I do think there's an opportunity to do some improvements at the Public Works yard in terms of fencing and security, and maybe
then-
it's an electronic gate that they get through with a badge or something like that.
And so, and that's where some of the grant opportunities come
Yeah.
in. We are able to access, capital funds through FTA that
Mhm.
allow us to do that. So as we have those needs, that's an 80-20 match. So they pay 80% of it.
Great.
They also require, as part of our annual grant application, that I'm going to get this wrong. I can't remember if it's 1% or 5% of our budgeted allotment
Mhm.
goes toward some sort of security related expenses. So
Okay.
that can be cameras at the storage yard, that could be cameras in the vehicles, that could be any
Improved
number of
fencing
things
or
that help
whatever.
with that. You know, as we go forward and grow, one of the things that we'll be looking at with VIA is, while this is not a traditional system in the sense that you go to a bus stop, there will be locations that are natural gathering points,
Mhm.
like at the college.
Yep.
And we may look at not only through FTA funding, but through partners to be able to fund bus stops.
Mhm.
And that way on, you know, at CCGA, if you've called to get a ride, they know this is where you go. You've
Pick
got a
up.
nice little shelter and the car comes and picks you up then. So there'll be things like that as we evolve that, that there is, you know, additional funding out there for, and things that, will help us enhance the system for our operations and for the riders.
I also wanted some clarification on the language in the agreement about the wraps for the vans. Was that included in their expenses?
That is
They'll-
included in their expenses. So
And
it's basically turnkey.
Okay.
Our involvement with that will be in the branding
In the
and how do
design.
we want that to look, and how much do we want it to look, or how little do we want it to look? So
Right. Okay, all right, and I'm assuming that'll get circulated back to
Yes.
us and all that fun stuff. Great. Well, I tell you what, Mr. Mayor, I'm looking forward. I think all of us should take the very first ride, and we'll get dropped off at the county office, at the finance office, and we'll pick up a check.
Mr. Hunter, are we going to, or do you know when we're going to advertise for companies to purchase advertisement on the vans?
So I'll have to get back with you on that. That'll be part of this stand-up process with VIA, is they have programs to help enhance those type things. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
but that's definitely a revenue opportunity.
You took my question, Commissioner. That's a revenue
We have a big
opportunity.
billboard on
Definitely.
each one of the vehicles.
Digital.
A couple quick questions. One, in you all's view of the Valdosta community, which a lot of this was kind of, I guess, fashioned after. Obviously, with any new technology, you have early adapters, kind of middle, and then late adapters. How long in the process did it take for them to see adaptation actually in the community?
They said it was relatively quickly. Part of what VIA helps us do is get the word out. And so that's part of the reasons we picked First Friday as a big event opening. So they'll be able to demonstrate, they'll be able to get the apps on people. They're ready to go to NPA meetings. They're ready to go to churches. They're ready to go. They'll have a stand-up team here that helps in those first few months get everything up and rolling. So Valdosta was pretty quick. I can tell you, Mayor, as you know, my son is a fellow VSU grad, and they got this going while he was on campus, and he heard about it and knew about it and was able to take a ride in it. So if a college student starts processing it, they're getting the word out pretty good.
That's good, because I was going to ask two questions in relationship to Valdosta. Number one, have they been willing to share? And if not, I would
No.
love to know, city manager. if they've been willing to share their ridership over the years? Is it a plus or minus? What percentage over the time that they've had the program running?
The Valdosta,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they have given us, I think they said they're up to 500 riders a day.
Okay.
And they basically, like John said, the program itself is designed on the hours that they work.
Mhm.
They said that they would have a lot more riders if they could incorporate more hours, but because of the cost, they're keeping the cost down. They've, kind of managed the hours.
I would love to see if we have those numbers and they shared them. That's amazing. I would love to see the actual percentage of ridership per year,
Yeah.
like year over year. So the year they started it,
Okay.
if they've seen 10% growth, 15% growth, 7% decline, whatever it is, it
Yeah.
helps us understand what ballpark we may be living over the 3 to 5 years that we're experiencing.
And,
Okay.
and Valdosta's been very forthcoming through this whole process with us, and we've talked with different members of their staff many times. Richard, is it Richard Hardy?
Hardy.
Richard Hardy, who's I think now their city manager,
Mhm.
started this program and then moved up and has since become city manager.
deal.
And we met with their whole staff, spent a half day with them, rode in the vans.
Wonderful.
And this was before we even got to the RFP process, but it was understanding how that microtransit worked.
Good deal.
One of the things I would point out too about our funding and our expandability is currently we are not maxing out the amount of money available from FTA.
Mhm.
So their allotment to us, but if you do straight 50-50 match, their allotment to us and a 50% match gives more money than what we will be spending right now.
Got it.
So basically, what that's a long thing to say is we have the capacity from the FTA funding side to be able to expand even after we've started operating on St. Simon's.
Good deal.
So that I think is really unusual.
Right.
And one, I think that means we put together a great RFP.
There it is.
I think that'll and important to keep in our minds as we do look at how this evolves over time.
And one of the thoughts that I had, and still on Valdosta for a second, is have we done anything? And I know they are standing up a team, which is great. And I know it's a part of their business model, but a lot of it I think should fall on us as a city. It's our transit. So, what is our model going to be? Have we had any conversations with the college? Did they have conversations, City of Valdosta or the transit company? The reason being is because I want to ensure that this doesn't get labeled as just worker transit. This is not just worker transit. This is not people who need to just get over to Sea Island. These are college kids. These are people who need to get to grocery stores. And so I don't want to label transit as that. And so I'm hoping that we've had conversations with
So
those partners.
one of the very first partners we met with when we did the study for this that put us on this path was the whole executive team for CCGA. And they were very willing to be a part of this, however we can work with them to make it available to their students. They were incredibly excited about it. So we will pick those conversations back up.
Perfect. That's what I was hoping.
And because we've had a little bit of a lag in between all of that, but that's part of this. It'll be pretty intense next 2 or 3 months.
And to the
getting
tune
with those
that
partners.
I think that to the tune that we're having those conversations commission wise with President Evans, if there are, as both Commissioner Atkinson Williams and Harris point out, chances to sponsor, chances to get the name out, they would be an amazing person to have that conversation with earlier as they go into their school year.
Yeah, I had a constant conversation just prior to the presentation to the county. And Dr. Evans was very receptive of trying to support the program and possibly pay for passes for the students.
Good deal.
Also investing in the program. So those conversations have been ongoing, and we've gotten great response from the college.
Good deal. Couple more questions really quick. In your breakdown of the dollars, I see at the bottom line, there's around estimated 150,000 for, I think is labeled tech support. I'm not sure.
City administration.
City administration. Can you break down that number? How much is that 150K plus spent internally? Are we spending 150K plus for a staffer on their side? I'm just wondering where that lives.
So that would be our internal person, who will be a liaison with, VIA. Part of that role is to help us with these funding initiatives. And there's also some pretty hefty administrative requirements from FTA and GDOT that we have to make sure we hit our markers with. VIA provides us all the information, but we're still responsible for filing the reports. So all
So
of
does that represent a staffer or does that represent staff time in a staffer? I guess
Uh,
is-
have
At this
best answer
point,
that.
it's a staffer person that we have that's going to work with transit, kind of
Okay.
help with community outreach, advertising, as well as the grant administration.
Okay.
And Mayor, we will bring back a itemization of that once we make a clear determination of
Okay.
how that will look.
Okay. The reason I ask about that, I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't in addition to some service they were providing, and didn't know if we could provide that cheaper in-house. I didn't want 150K just to be going that way for some support that we somehow never see actualized. Last couple questions are, am I hearing that correctly, that all of the rides will be $3?
So we have the capability to scale fares.
Okay.
Right now, we had budgeted at $3. We could make the decision to lessen that. We could make the decision. I don't think we would push over $3 for a typical ride.
Well, I was actually asking
Yeah.
to go, not to go lower to take away money or revenue, but adaptation to the service.
Right. So there is some adaptation to it. So they can base things on, zip code and phone number and credit card data about where your residence is.
Okay.
So, or we could put things in place that there may be some longer rides. Like say if once the second phase is up and going, if you're going from
Airport to St. Simons.
the airport to St. Simon,
That's what I'm
that's a
trying-
more expensive ride, but it's still an affordable ride.
Right.
And that's one of the things we'll have to work with the airport, and the hoteliers as well.
So that number scales as the program scales. And at the same time,
Yep.
as we look at additional services that can be scaled to that.
That's right.
Okay.
And similarly, if we're, able to bring the county on board, the what's called the rural funds that allow funding out in the county, VIA has actually said they have ways to be able to split the ride because you can't cross over from one to the other from funding sources.
Got
But
it.
they have the ability to split the ride so that it's calculated out and goes itemized to one of the funding sources and then to the other based on whether it's rural or urban. So the technology behind this stuff now is just incredible about
Good
what it's
deal. Good
gives
deal.
us the ability to get.
Last thing I got is advocating for, if we're at 6 to 9, having a conversation of 6 to 10. I just think if
Yeah.
we're going to attract college kids using it, coming downtown and enjoying downtown, we want to give them safe rides as late as possible. And whenever you can get it to us, I think a hard kind of on paper timeline of the marketing outlay,
Yeah.
just because I think it helps all of us truly understand where we should be pushing and where we should be present in. Just want to make
Definitely
sure.
will do.
That's all I got.
One more question, I promise. The teacher just keep giving me. I'm not sure Valdosta has addressed this. What is the minimum age a rider can ride
That's a good
without,
question.
adult supervision? Because I'm thinking about, you have kids who probably miss the bus, parent at work.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I'll have to get back to you on that, but
We haven't really thought about that, but
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up because we want, we'll set it at, I guess, what's safe, but that, we hadn't even thought about that. And basically, we got a lot of work to do to finalize some of this, and we haven't done that because we were trying to get the program started. And there are a lot of parameters that need to be set, but we want to get everything set and bring it back to the commission as well. But thank you.
That's a good question.
And I think that's maybe a good question for Valdosta if you are reaching out to
Well,
them.
I'm sure they have experience too with that same question in other entities. And
I
I'm sure it's a
guarantee they do.
insurance question,
Yeah.
probably related, and all that other things. I have one more follow-up too. The mayor brought up marketing, and as a former marketing guy, that's super important to me. And so I appreciate you doing that. Do we have a designated marketing budget for this rollout? Is it in the funds that we've already assigned? Do we need to look for other funds somewhere else for that? And have we got, or just not got that far yet, probably? It's within the budget. Okay. So when you bring that marketing calendar back, for lack of a better word, I'd love to see the outlets and what the budget's going for.
Okay.
Like, great stuff. Thank you.
And just piggybacking on Commissioner Williams, because I was thinking about like GITCA, the school system
Mhm.
as well, and the technical colleges and those opportunities as well that are way, way out for potential transportation opportunities.
Thank you for that. Before we go into the vote, I just want to say thank you so much to Commissioner Harris. You've been pushing it for God knows how long. I know you've been beating this drum ever since we lost buses. And so thank you for your service and your fight in getting us here, always staying in front of your county commission and letting them know how important it is to be a partner. Commissioner Saby, you served on the BATS committee. And I know those are a lot of internal meetings that a lot of people don't know about, but you all have done Oldman's work, getting in the weeds, making sure we have a good product on the other end. Director Hunter, City Manager McDuffie, and to staff. This is more than just a small thing. We have a grocery store that is closed in our community. We have a growing sector of people who want access to educational options. And so for us, transportation doesn't just equal transportation, it equals opportunities. And what we are doing tonight is going to provide opportunities for a lot of people to expand what they see inside the city of Brunswick. So I just want to thank everyone for their hard work. And with that, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the third-party operator contract for transit service.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Yeah. With that, we will move on to consider approval of resolution number 2025-09, donation of LiDAR to Georgia Board of Public Safety. Assistant City Manager Berquist and Chief Smith. Come on up, Chief. Good
Good afternoon.
afternoon.
Over the last year, the Georgia State Patrol has been extremely proactive in traffic enforcement in the city of Brunswick. And so through that, they have brought in additional revenue through municipal court, as well as decrease speeding in our area and on our city streets. And so because of that, and because of the partnership, we're asking the commission to consider the resolution for us to donate to them a LiDAR, which is a speed detection device to be used in the city limits of Brunswick.
Thank you so much. If you could take a quick second and just, I know speed detection devices, good wording for us.
A
but
device
tell
used
the
to
com-
measure the speed of vehicles traveling on our city streets.
Does it have to be calibrated?
Yes, it does.
Well, no, we thank you for that. Any questions or comments for Chief Smith?
I just first I had to keep on looking, what is it, LiDAR? I
A
had to
LiDAR.
hunt, like, okay, what it, you know, I kind of like figured out what it was, but I wasn't sure. So, with this, we donating while they are in the city limits to utilize while they're on duty. They have some at the county, I mean, at the, state patrol as well, or we just want to embrace this? I'm trying to
We
figure
just
like.
want to continue our partnership because they have really helped the city out, especially at a time when we were short-staffed on the road and unable to do as much traffic enforcement as we would like. They were there without us calling on them, and so we would like to provide them with an additional
Okay.
device.
Device. Okay, that's fine. They be on their jobs too. But okay, thank you.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, Chief, if you don't mind, we do have a couple of representatives. If you don't mind, introduce them. I'd like them to come up so we can
Yes.
recognize them.
Yes, and also I just want to say that we are unable to provide them with the device until the resolution is approved of and is sent to the Georgia Board of Public Safety. Sergeant Shortnut.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to thank
Good
you for your
evening.
service. Yeah, I appreciate the work you guys do in the city. And I know I've spoken with our municipal court judge and he really appreciates the relationship that you guys have built together. So thank you again.
Yes, sir. It's our pleasure.
Please go ahead.
I just want to say thank you. Uh, Looking right at him and just forgot his name. Our ACM, Burquest. But he even took the opportunity to just move my mindset even beyond where it initially was when first reviewing the request for this information. And again, we have to look at the intangibles and the opportunities that come with this partnership and understanding the dynamics of your organization and certain restrictions on monies and all of those things, and having the opportunity to do that donation to the Georgia State Patrol and have them to be able to return that in a more tangible way I think may be missing somewhat when you're exchanging an intangible for a tangible. That means that we're going to be bringing in what we need to bring in. It's going to increase revenue opportunities. Not that we're going out to try to give out more tickets, but the opportunity as we continue as a city and as we look at being fiscally responsible, our finances, those opportunities, the opportunity not to be so taxing on our community, but still having those revenue streams come in, having the opportunity to enforce laws while we are also still being and showing that goodwill between the partnering of organizations. And so I don't think that's measured in the manner that it should be measured. And so this is yet another opportunity for us to have that partnership and to show that goodwill, that bridging of relationships, not just between law enforcement agencies, but also the greater community itself. So thank you. And I'm glad we have that opportunity to do so.
Sergeant Chernick, am I saying that right?
Yes.
And Trooper McNeil, if you can please come to the front as well. We're gonna get a picture here. Hopefully, if the vote goes the right way. Hopefully the vote goes the right way. I just want to say thank you all for your service. Truthfully, I know because we read the reports that we get from Chief Smith, the things that you all respond to that aren't under your purview just because you're helping out and you know you're needed at a place. We know the times that we're riding around during hurricane season and we're in the midst of it. You all are right there in the thick of it, on every call, in the middle of everything we need. So we know while you are also taking care of the highway and keeping us safe from people who traverse 95 and the like, that you're also taking a true care of the cities that you all protect and take care of. So I just want to say thank you as a mayor. We want to say thank you as a commission. We want to say thank you to people who've probably been pulled over by you. A couple of tickets we done had to write. I don't have a lead foot, but I've heard about some people up here that have lead feet. And so we just want to say thank you for that service, not only to your community, but for to people individually. And so with that, we'll open it for a motion and grab a picture here.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution to donate a LiDAR to Georgia Board of Public Safety / Georgia State Patrol.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you all.
It's also noted that Officer Kevin Yarborough also assisted in quotes and purchases. So thank you for our very own who contributed.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Wonderful. With that, we will move on to consider approval of agreement with Georgia Water and Environmental Services in the amount of $127,880 for the Bay Newcastle Street Roundabout project. Director Albers.
Good evening.
Evening.
So as you said, this project or this item has to do with our roundabout design project here at the intersection of Bay and Newcastle Streets. We've been working on that design a little bit sometime, going through the GDOT design process. GWES is our design engineer on that, working through this design process with us. Couple things we have encountered along this way with this design. One, GDOT has sort of two design processes within their system. One is what they call the large encroachment process, which is essentially driveways, small intersections and such. The other is the PDP, Plan Development Process, which is what a large scale new highway, the Causeway Bridge goes through. It's just a full scale design process. When we started this roundabout process, GDOT was admittedly kind of revamping their process and not certain kind of where our project was going to fall. So as we've worked through this, it's caused a little bit of confusion in the design process about, okay, what do you want us to submit to you, GDOT? How do you want this submitted? How do you want that submitted? What kind of documents do you want to see? So with that, GWES has had to do a little extra work than what they presented to us in the scope of their original proposal. So that's part of this proposal is the additional services. The other part is, as we work through here, typically we present a project like this to local utility owners to review it for design conflicts and relocations and whatnot. When we presented this to Joint Water and Sewer, they came back and said, well, there's several utility lines, water and sewer lines that they would like to relocate to get them out from under the footprint of the roundabout and improve service there in that area. So they are willing to take on the cost of this. The second half of this proposal is those utility costs. JWSC is willing to take on those costs, and we would address that through an intergovernmental agreement with them. We've done similar arrangements on the L Street project, the Magnolia Park project, similar on the county or on the College Park project with the county. So we're working now. I talked with the engineer over at Joint Water and Sewer today, working on getting that paperwork together to bring to you to to bring that intergovernmental agreement to you. So, anyway, that's the two parts of this agreement. It's almost split in half, 63,410. Those are costs to the city for additional cost, additional engineering cost, some railroad coordination. We found out with some of the signage locations there along the west side of Bay Street. We're going to have to work with the railroad on getting some approvals there on how those signs can be located, where those footings can sit, that kind of thing in relation to the railroad. So those costs, the 63,410 will be our cost, and then the 64,470 will be addressed through the cost or through the intergovernmental agreement with Joint Water and Sewer. So, so that's it. We're just asking for approval to go ahead with this additional services agreement, and then we'll bring back in the next couple of weeks the agreement with Joint Water and Sewer for the utility services. One question that was asked the other day in finance when we discussed this was, how does the payment work with them? Typically, what we've done in the past was, since we're the contract holder, the agreement holder, GWES will send us a monthly invoice. We forward that over to JWSC for their portion of that invoice. They return that portion to us, then we pay the entire invoice. So we're not putting our money out there without, we get the payment before we make the payment. So, but I'd be glad to try to answer any other questions too.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we authorize you to sign the agreement with GWES in the amount of $127,880 for additional engineering and design services for the Bay Newcastle Roundabout project.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Do you have
Thank you,
one
Director.
additional question
Oh,
though? Sorry, I just thought, can you just give us a quick update on timeline?
Yes, we talked about that. I talked with GWS today a little bit about that, and we're probably 9 to 12 months from going to construction on that.
Okay.
So hopefully, late spring, summer of next year.
Thank you.
Wonderful. That we will now move on to number 7, consider approval of agreement with Goodwin Mills Kaywood for design and permitting tasks related to the proposed pedestrian improvements along Bay Street.
This is a little further down the Bay Street corridor. You probably remember a couple of years ago, we did the Bay Street corridor study, which took a look at the entire corridor from the intersection of 17 down here all the way through 4th Street, up Bay Street, all the way out to the interstate past exit 36. Kind of a broad overview of that corridor. Sort of identified several hot spots, if you will, typically, locations of interest there for potential improvements. This Bay Street area was one, the 4th Street Selden Park was one, the Bay Newcastle intersection was one, and then further out, the Community Road intersection, the interstate area. But so we have started on sort of diving in a little deeper on some of those areas. Obviously, the roundabout area that we just discussed, the 4th Street area has been an ongoing topic of conversation with GDOT for several years. But so this is another area that we're looking into a little closer, trying to improve the pedestrian access through that corridor south of the roundabout there, from about the roundabout down to around Howe Street, the Mary Ross Park area, trying to improve the connectivity between Mary Ross Park, getting people back and forth across that street and along that street to the parking and just movement around that area of Bay Street. So we took a sketch to GDOT with some ideas of some pedestrian improvements there. Got favorable response from them, and so GMC has provided us with a proposal to continue with the design and permitting of those improvements, which are mainly just curb bulb outs there at the intersections, trying to shorten the pedestrian crossing distance, better defined parallel parking along there, potentially some lighting within those bulb outs, helping improve safety there. Possibly some sidewalk relocations or ADA improvements at the intersections, getting pedestrians along parallel to Bay Street a little better. GDOT is working through design themselves of pedestrian hybrid beacons at the F and Gloucester Street intersections to replace those rapid flashing beacons. So that'll be another improvement there that will help. But this is just the pedestrian improvements there along that corridor and the design and permitting of those, working through the permitting with GDOT, getting to the construction of those. This is a cost of $86,000 for this design, which would be funded by out of our SPLOST roadways allocation.
Questions or comments?
Garo, in terms of the flashing or the new pedestrian signals that GDOT is working on, I know that there was some discussion when we were in Atlanta about the footprint of those. Do we have any direction on where those are going to actually be mounted? Because currently the flashers are in the median. Would these be located obviously on an armed pole, and would we anchor those on kind of some of these new bump outs? Is that the thought process, or would they still be kind of quasi in the middle?
No, they would have to be located over the lane like a traffic signal does. It looks like a traffic signal. So it's either located on a mast arm pole, like you mentioned, or a span wire.
Okay.
So it will not sit in the middle, in the median, or on the side like the flashing beacons do.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I would just like to continue to push for a mast pole and not have any suspended wires over that highway. If we can, however we need to do that to encourage GDOT to do that. I think just from a storm resiliency standpoint, that's key. And also, as we're spending all this money on aesthetics and stuff, as this is a major gateway, I think that's important for us as well. And I think they've honored that and done that in other communities like we've toured in Suwanee and things like that for these same kind of signals. So anything you can do to help push that. And I think we can offer up, hey, we're closing the distance by doing the bump out. So it should make it easier for them to execute that, I would think. So I think they're.
Yeah, I will have that conversation with them. We're working on trying to permit a crosswalk at Lanier across.
Yeah.
And we're doing the mast arm pole there.
Okay,
so,
perfect. Okay.
Kind of take the consistency angle as well. So.
Yeah. And it again would be consistent all the way up and down Gloucester too, that way too, because we have those masts. So I think that all makes sense. Obviously this is just for design. Well, some of this design, is it just basically hardscape? I see there's some green space there, but would this design include any landscaping design recommendations as well, or is it?
The recommendations there, not really a full design, but some recommendations there.
Okay. Okay. Any infrastructure in terms of, again, forward thinking towards potential landscaping, irrigation or anything like that along any of this?
No irrigation probably.
Okay.
And so the landscaping then would need to be drought tolerant, and we want it low maintenance and.
Right, and obviously keeping it down and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I guess the only other thought I had is, has there been any discussion with, and again, I don't know if this is strictly DOT right away or if this has to do with port or what have you, but if you look at the intersection of Monk Street, as you go across to the west there's currently a curb cut there, and the drawing shows additional bump outs, but there's no, ingress or egress there for the port. It just goes straight to the railroad track. I would be inclined to hear if there's been discussion about eliminating that curb cut. That would save us some money from not necessarily having to do 2 bump outs there. You could do a bump out and just continue the sidewalk and eliminate that curb cut. I don't know if that's.
We could talk to them about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we would, unless they may come back to us and say, or Port Authority may say, we want to keep that for future expansion or something potentially, but
Mhm.
if there's a way to s- slide that under the radar
Sure,
and
yeah.
eliminate that, that might be beneficial in the long run. And with that being said, once you go across that new brick pathway at Monk Street, again, heading west towards the port, there would be a contiguous sidewalk all the way to Mayor Ross Park then to the north? Is that, are you following me?
At
At Monk Street.
Monk. Yes, it depending on making sure we can fit it in with the railroad there.
Yeah,
And,
so I mean,
so
I
there's-
guess this is the specific one. See how that break is there?
Mhm.
So it doesn't show any sidewalk going, connecting that curb cut. So that's the only thing I was asking is if we can look at that.
Okay, I got you, yeah.
You feel it?
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to ADA and stuff. Like, I don't want them to, it only shows one ramp where the
Right.
red brick comes across.
I
It
got
doesn't show any connectivity going to the north.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Perfect. Thank you. No other questions, Mr.
Mr. Albertson,
That's right.
I know we have looked at R-Cut and everything GDOT has sent to us about the Selden Park, 4th Street, Selden Park entry. Can this beacon, hybrid beacon work there for its pedestrian, not necessarily cars, but this could be something, this design fit at that particular entry point?
Potentially. And they have sent over a sketch for a pedestrian hybrid beacon there. So we've had a little bit of discussion on that. We haven't circulated that among the group yet, but that is a possibility there. So we'll-
Or can you possibly explore, because I know the R-Cut is out, that's just crazy. The
Right.
last one that they sent, that's not workable neither, but at least this is a flashing beacon for pedestrians to come across and that part slow up that traffic up there.
Yeah, that's the current design that we're looking at.
Okay.
And we have had conversations with the engineers of it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize you to sign an agreement with GMC in the amount of $86,000 for design and permitting services for the Bay Street pedestrian improvements.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. With that, we will now move on to consider approval of agreement with Atlantic Pipe Services for repairs to the subsurface storm drainage system along North Cleburne Street between N Street and R Street.
So if you've driven through that area recently, you've noticed several sinkholes in Cleburne Street there. And that system there was installed probably about 12 years ago, but it's a very wet area underground. It's really, really wet there, a lot of groundwater there. And a lot of times when you have an area that's wet, those pipes can still tend to move under there. And I think probably we've had some joints separate in there, some pipes separate from the drainage boxes and all. But what's happening is we've developed leaks in that system, and so groundwater and soil are infiltrating in our pipe. And then so when that soil infiltrates, then that's the sinkhole you see above it is that soil coming down. So we've kind of looked into some ways to repair that and looked at several options. We went in and cleaned that system very good, really good, and got video of it, found out exactly where those leaks are, how far along the pipe they are and kind of where around the pipe they are. So we have all that mapped out. And then looking at our options, one option, this option here is what they call a pressure grouting system, where they send a machine in there and they pump grout into that exact location where that leak is. Another option is lining that system, which is effective. We've used lining in other parts of the city very effectively. They essentially insert a big it looks like a tube sock, for lack of a better word. And then they blow air and inflate that, and basically you create a new pipe inside that old pipe, but it seals it off. And then, of course, there's always remove and replacement, but then you've got all the disturbance and the repaving and all of that that goes along with it. So this proposal here from Atlantic Pipe Services is for, I believe it's $52,981 for the pressure grouting and the point repair. Based on our previous projects and some other pricing that we've got, we're estimating that lining that with the cured in place liner would exceed $85,000. And then of course, replacement would be a much more significant cost, probably upwards of $150,000, $200,000, not to mention the disturbance that goes along with it. So it appears that this pressure grouting proposal here is the most cost-effective manner to get this work done. So we're just asking for approval to go in there, allow Atlantic Pipe to go in there and pressure grout the system, seal these leaks, and then once they do, we'll come back and fill the sinkholes and repair the surface area behind them. And then hopefully we have a watertight system then for several years going forward.
Questions or comments?
What, obviously, this is a fairly pressing issue for you and the neighborhood. Does the Atlantic Pipe Service give us an ETA on mobilization and how long it's going to take to execute it?
In my last conversation with them, they talked like they could be ready in a couple of weeks from go ahead. So
Okay.
I would hope by the end of the month they're
Okay.
they're ready to mobilize.
It's 30 days.
Probably a 30-day project. So yeah, it won't take them very long once they get started to knock it out.
What's the life expectancy of the resolution?
It's many years, 15, 20 years, which is probably as long as the pipe can be expected to last. If we get 15 years out of it, we'll exceed what the original pipe and joints have given us in this location.
And so that is
So-
the purposing of this resolution, is to extend the life of the current piping that's in place now.
Yes, ma'am, without having to go back in there and
And dig
replace
everything
it with
up.
new pipe. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Iverson, the original pipes that were installed, what was the life expectancy of those pipes? I know it's wetland now, but without the wetland, how long were those pipes supposed to have last?
The pipes themselves are concrete pipes, so the concrete, lasts a long time, but what is failing here and what typically fails in any of that situation is the rubber gasket that's installed in there when that pipe is put together.
It's like a joint, the rubber
Yes,
gasket.
ma'am, they put a rubber gasket in there which seals that. It's supposed to make it watertight, but it's also a rubber component, and it, even in dry or non-wet situations like this, it eventually dry rots. So, you're gonna get failures there. That's where your failure is gonna be most every time. And that typically those start failing at about the 20-year mark, even in best case scenarios. So,
So with the pressure grouting, and you probably already said this, it's going to go seal back in those joint areas. Am I correct? That's what you're talking about. It's gonna
yes,
go-
ma'am.
Okay, that's fine. And so, piggyback off of Commissioner Harris, this is gonna stem, which we have 12, and it should give us 15 to 20 more years? or-
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's good. All right, thank you.
The only question I have is, do we do all of if the sinkholes are there, do we do all of the repaving ourselves? Like we do that internally?
We would, it kind of it will depend on how big the hole is or how big the area is. If it's, desktop size hole that we've caught fairly early, we'll take care of that with some of our cold mix or our smaller patching. But if it's several holes or a larger one, we might cut it out. You want to saw cut it and square it up. But if it gets pretty large, then we may bring in a contractor to repave that.
Two quick questions from the sinkholes that your team has seen out there. Do they have an idea which one we're probably going to be dealing with, or are they still like, after we do this, we'll have to look at the degradation again to see what we got to do?
There's probably a couple of areas that have gotten large enough that we'll need a contractor's
contractor.
assistance for some patching, asphalt patching.
Good deal. Because I was about to say, I've rode through that area and I got a mayor pro tem that's probably in my phone right now. I just want to make sure we are doing it.
There's
what
a
we need
couple
to
that
do.
are pretty deep, and of course, the deeper it goes, the larger you have to cut to bring it back flush. So they can end up being pretty large areas.
That's why I was asking. I was like, man, if we got the ability to do some of that I see over there in house, we got some pretty talented folks.
We don't have the paving equipment and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
To do that, the rollers and whatnot.
Good deal. So including this cost, there will be some cost on the contract side of getting the road back to where it needs to be.
There will be. And that may, depending on how it falls with projects, it may be that we could roll that in with another project,
Okay.
For example, we're getting ready to pave on Albany Street. If we're doing a project like that, we'd have the contractor run over and pave this area.
Knock that out.
So
Perfect. The other question that I have is, what does I generally know what a disturbance is if we go down and we block off streets and replace everything. Is there any disturbance and I've seen them do like you said, the sock almost. I've seen them do that work. What does this work look like from the point of insert of this machine and to the general public?
This would certainly be less intrusive than taking the pipe out, removing or replacing the pipe. There may be some disturbance there. This can be done from inside the pipe where they grout it inside the pipe and seal the outside, but they could also, if the pipe's sort of a high pipe, a shallow pipe and not very deep, they could go in from the outside.
Okay.
But you would just need to open up a small area above the pipe and access the pipe. So probably something, not much bigger than this desktop.
Okay.
And get down to the pipe.
Got you. So you'd only have disturbance basically in one spot, that grout.
Right. You're not disturbing the full length of that pipe to get to it. Right.
Perfect. That's what I need to know. I appreciate it, man.
That's one thing. So with this and seeing it evidence that there is a problem, we have a master plan in place in dealing with these matters. How are we addressing potential issues via our master plan before we get to the sinkhole problem? Before we get to being able to visually see it, how are we maintaining what we have based upon our master plan and not waiting until we see a sinkhole or till the sinkhole happen?
In our original master plan, we didn't really address maintenance and these kind of things in that. However, it's time to update that master plan, and that's something I'm going to be working on in the next couple of weeks, is getting pricing on that from our consultants. So that is a section we can add, and there is maintenance and kind of looking forward to these kind of things, to prevention ideas. So we'll be sure that gets incorporated in there.
Okay, awesome.
There are no other questions or comments. We'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion that we approve the agreement with Atlantic Pipe Services for repairs to the subsurface storm drainage system along North Cleburne Street between N Street and R Street.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and a second, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We'll now move to number 9, consider approval of agreement with Robert Civil Engineering in the amount of $34,600 for the pavement conditions assessment update.
Before we entertain that, I do have a question about what we spoke, well, not something similar, and it just hit me. On Altama, at Terra Lane and Altama, in front, kind of like in front at the corner, is that a sinkhole? Or are we waiting till we pave Altama to fix that? It's in front of the tidal pond or wherever that, it's a white, it's dips in, it's kind of like a white paint, or is it something that we could come fill in and smooth until we do the paving?
Now, are you talking about the rutting in the pavement that's,
Not the rough, it's a white, I should have taken a picture, it's a white, it's kind of like light white dip. Like if you on the east side going, north, it's in that lane.
You talking about where they got where the capping is for the drainage?
No, I mean,
For the storm?
you have a cap and then there's a big dip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Right. Before,
Yeah, well,
going towards.
it's on it's closer to the tidal pond.
Right in
on the
front of
corner.
it.
Right in front of, not directly, it's right closer to the corner,
I
but it's on
think-
that side.
I think what you may be talking about is a manhole there. There's a AT&T duct bank that runs up Altama. And so that's an AT&T manhole right near there. So there may be some problem with that manhole. It may have some settlement there, or it may be leaking or something. So it may be a similar problem. And that's part of what we'll be doing with the Altama project, and the utility coordination that goes along with that is letting them know, hey, we're going to pave this. You need to take care of your problems before we repave this.
I'm gonna make sure I take a picture, because actually a citizen brought it to me and said this car almost tore up their front going across it, because if they're not paying attention, I mean, it's,
We'll go look at it tomorrow and make sure.
'Cause it's
And
light.
see if it can be addressed immediately till we get the Altama project moving, but,
'Cause
okay.
It's as if you're at the light and you're traveling north. It's on the other side of that manhole.
correct.
Mhm.
But it's on the east lane, in the east lane.
Right.
the far right lane.
Far right,
Okay,
close.
yeah, we'll take care of it, or take a look at it and see what we can do about it. And
Okay,
then permanently address it as during the roadway work.
thank you, I'm sorry, you could.
That's fine.
That puts us back at the agreement with Roberts Civil Engineering for pavement conditions assessment update.
Okay. Yes, about 5 years ago, we had a pavement condition assessment done. Roberts did that for us. And so they went in and basically they take video and provide an assessment of every piece of roadway in town, all 107 miles of roadway. And they assign a score to that roadway. And then ultimately it has a grade. And so with this assessment, you get a spreadsheet back with scoring of all your roadways, and there's also a video component of it. You can watch their machine ride down the road, and you can kind of see where these potholes are and where the cracks are and where your deficiencies are. But what has worked well for us is the scoring of that and the spreadsheet that you get. And how that has helped us to prioritize our paving projects and our roadway improvement projects around town. You can sort that list from worst to best condition-wise, and then they're kind of work down your list, if you will, addressing your worst problems there. But we've made a lot of improvements since we had that first one done. Right at that time, we were starting the Magnolia Park project, which had several pretty rough roads in there. And I think we've done 5 resurfacing projects since that was done. So our overall score should improve significantly from one paving assessment to the other. But then also, as we do this pavement assessment, we would like to add a couple of features to it that we did not include last time. One of those being a sidewalk inventory, which is them going around and identifying streets where there are sidewalks, where there are not sidewalks, which can help us with our planning and overall, sidewalk work as well. And then curb and gutter inventory assessments, taking a look at where we have curb and gutter, where we don't. You know, a lot of streets don't have curb and gutter, but then a lot that do have curb and gutter, that curb and gutter is displaced for whatever reason, maybe settlement for utility issues, maybe tree roots, you know, vehicle accidents, whatnot, and helping identify where we can improve those curb and gutter areas. And then finally, a roadway sign inventory and assessment, going around certain areas of town, taking a look at our roadway signage, our street signs, our regulatory signs, and identifying where they are, maybe where they're missing, where there needs to be a sign, where the signs that are there need improvement because they're faded, they're non-reflective, they're bent, they're broken, whatnot.
Or there's too many.
So we would like to add those three kind of categories, or if you will, to it. So it'd be the paving condition assessment, sidewalk inventory, curb and gutter inventory and assessment, and the signage assessment. So that comes to a total, I believe, of $34,600. And they're ready to get started on that immediately as soon as we give them the go-ahead. So,
Questions or comments?
With the sidewalk inventory, I don't see in the language that it says assessment. Is it just an inventory? And so the sidewalks aren't assessed on their condition, just the curb and gutter and the roadway. Is that correct?
right, it's just an inventory.
Okay.
So once the assessment's done and there are some damages, how soon do you all start on those things that are identified that needs to be replaced or up, you know?
As soon as we have some money. It's, I mean, you know, you're looking at roadway paving contracts, which is millions of dollars. This is more than just pothole patching here. This is identifying miles of roadway that need attention. So, yes, ma'am. We get a little money through our LMIG from GDOT every year, couple $100,000 there. We've got some SPLOST money, hopefully. We'll see what Altama and Norwich and some of these other streets take up, and then kind of see what's left there. But yes, it's all going to be dependent on the money. And there are not a lot of grants out there for roadway resurfacing, just asphalt resurfacing. It's not really easily grant funded, so all about the money.
I do think it's beneficial that we get the sidewalk, sorry to jump in, the sidewalk inventory and the curb and gutter, because I do think that, to your point, could potentially open us up for some additional funds.
Well, that's
Because
true.
we can kind of lump those projects together,
Right.
different situations for creating pedestrian-friendly, walkable, you know, areas and things like that, and kind of tackle it from two different
Right.
angles.
In answering your question, I was thinking more about roadways and the paving condition, but where we've learned that sidewalks are non-existent, or maybe there's curb and gutter, which needs attention, you know, those are a little more manageable financially. We do have some SPLOST money set aside for sidewalks and that kind of thing. So we can jump on those a little quicker than we can a full-scale roadway assessment. Maybe that's what you were asking, so sorry.
No,
So,
just anything. But you answered, it's still
Okay.
a dollar, the money. But thank you.
Well, I know one testament to the importance of the assessment would be Ms. Holmes over by the McDonald's area, where they initially never had curbing. And now, after some years and putting in that time, they have that curbing there. And so that is a deterrent for flooding, as they had experienced in that Urbana Perry Park area. And I think Ms. Collins is back there, and so she can attest to the struggle or fight, whatever you want to term it, that we went through in getting those monies in place and being able to answer that need or service that need for flooding that community had been experiencing for years. And so that curbing there, every time I'm
Seems to be working well
it
over there.
seems to be working pretty good. So, I mean, I think that's a good testimony to the efforts.
I only have one question. How often do we get this done?
Well, we just had, there was the initial done 5 years ago. So this is the update, but typically 5-year updates.
5 years, okay.
Same with this stormwater master plan, typically
Gotcha.
those are 5-year.
5 years.
turnovers.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hearing no other questions or comments, I'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the agreement with Roberts Civil Engineering in the amount of 34,600 for the pavement condition assessment update, including
Second.
the additional requirements.
Here's a
Second.
first and a second. All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Alverson. I think we'll be seeing you again fairly quickly here. With that, we'll move on to item 9A. Consider approval of memorandum of understanding between the city of Brunswick and Eckerd Connects, if I'm saying that right, City Manager McDuffie.
This won't take but a moment. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. Certainly, we all know how we are trying to engage our youth in our community. And this, as you know, is a work source program that helps bring youth to the workplace. As we talk about youth violence in our community and addressing it in so many different ways, we want to make sure that we bring in the youth and help them as much as possible. So the city, through your leadership, particularly Mayor, wanting to be a part of this and renew our work source agreement and bring in the youth. We've had meetings with the departments, and we will continue to talk about how we can engage them in our workforce. And we also want to make sure that the school system is supportive of the program and help as much as possible to identify youth to bring into the program. So we're going to get started this year, but we will hope to grow this program going forward and also start engaging the chamber and businesses throughout the community. So with that, we are asking to renew the work source agreement. We have had one in place for the city, but I don't know when the last time it was signed. So we wanted to update it. The attorney has looked at this agreement, so we are, bringing forth this so that we can move forward with our engagement with the work source. So with that, Ms. Lee is here, and if you have any questions about the program, she will happily give you an answer.
Ms. Lee, we can't miss the opportunity for you to tell us about your amazing program. Thank you so much for setting the meeting with us, coming in and telling us about the program, making sure that we got this done. So thank you for pushing our city in the right direction.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the program, kind of how it started, how it's funded, and then what you all's mission is?
Okay, so our program is for youth initially from 17 to 24-year-olds. And what we do is we do offer a GED program, but our biggest push with the city right now is work experience, because we know a lot of kids or young adults don't have anything on their resume. And when you go to a job interview, they ask, do you have any experience? So what we want to do is give them that work experience where we pay, they're insured, and the only thing that we ask is the departments supervise them. And then at the end of the day, after the 8 weeks, they'll have something to put on their resume. But if there's an opportunity to be employed with the city, they firsthand have experience for that job. And we're actually pushing, I'm an overachiever. So we started a Life After High School program that we're going to kick off in August, and we're going to engage seniors at both high schools and try to get them engaged in learning either whether they're going to work, they're going in the military, or they're going into college. And so this way, at the end of the summer, by the time they graduate, they'll know if they want to go to work, and we'll be able to put them in avenues where they can go to work.
So impressive. Questions or comments from the commission?
Ms. Lee, what is the, I know you all will be paying the individuals, but what is the pay per hour? How many, hours per, week they could work and?
So right now, the pay is $10 an hour. They'll get 40 hours in a week, and it's for 8 weeks.
And this is for
And it's a better,
students or,
it can be anybody from the ages of 17 to 24. So our youth, that's what youth are, 17 to 24. So if we have somebody that's been out of work, they're 23 years old, and they're looking for work, if there's a department with the city that is looking for someone, and they do have to come interview, we're not just sending them onto a job. They have to get their resume. They do a 20-hour career pathways class with my lead instructor, and she does interviewing skill, resume writing. They will come to the position and interview for it. If they feel like they're a good fit, they'll work for 8 weeks. And then if they feel like they're a good fit, they'll roll into the position.
so in actuality, this is like a, for our community individuals who may have decided that high school is not for them and they hopefully have gone and gotten their GED or just,
Anybody graduated high school or they have their GED.
but because I'm looking at most graduates are over 17, they about 18. That's why I asked you, when you
Yes,
say
ma'am.
17 and 40 hours, I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
no, they won't be we won't do anything with anybody that's in school.
okay,
It would be, like right now, we're pushing for youth that have graduated from high school and they're going off to college. And we know they want to make a couple of dollars before they go to school. So that's what we're pushing for right now. But after August, it will be individuals that come through our GED program or anybody off the street that knows about our work source program and just need some work experience.
up to age 24.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Questions or comments?
I'm just happy to see the partnership back in force or potentially being put back in force because we did have it when I first became a commissioner. And no, Jim Drum, he moved in that area to make sure that we had that relationship. And so I'm just happy. It's a very good program and it affords that opportunity for that work experience.
Ms. Lee, you probably also want to tap into, for as recruiting people, our night high school,
We
those
have-
students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
They have a resource fair maybe every quarter at the Golden Eyes Career Academy, and we're always there.
okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Mine is a hypothetical. I haven't run it by any of my commissioners, so I'm being out of bounds and asking this. But I just want us to, we don't have to have an answer. Is there any way that the city could also pay those who work with the city some kind of stipend that brings the kids to around $15 an hour, which is kind of base where most of the community is. I don't want to lose kids at the $10 an hour lock in. So that's for us to figure out internally and for the commission to talk about it, even if they wanted to do it. I want to get the program going and get as many people locked in as possible. But just thinking about that long term, even in the program.
And I say that as well. But if you're laying on your parents' couch right now, you're not making any money.
Right.
$10 an hour.
Really good.
It's really good
It's
in the
really good.
beginning. And if they do well and they're the students that want to go to work, then that's an incentive. You're doing well now. This can be a career path and you can make more money.
Amen.
So that's my push with it.
Teachers.
Ms. Lee, I think what the mayor was trying to say, even though you all are paying the costs is on you all, your program now, could we add to that, to your budget or provide that money to you to pay more money? If not, like you said, the reward is at the end, we hire them. And we move.
But then that's not the end game of us. We do pay their wages. However, we do a $10 a day transportation stipend. So that's an additional $50 a week. If they have kids, we do provide childcare assistance, which is up to $30 a day. So every day they go to work, if they have a child that's under 4 years old, we pay $30 per day for that. So that's an additional $400 a week.
Wonderful. We are thankful for that, and we want to make sure we get all of those services to our citizens. Thank you for bringing it to us. City manager, staff, thank you for working quickly to get us locked into the MOU. We will work with our marketing department, our PIO, and all of our socials to make sure that we are pressing this out to get as many people signed up as possible. I know we have some great opportunities at the city. So the more we can put people in that pipeline and make that pipeline real where they're moving into work for us, the more people will believe in it in the city. So thank you for being the first step. With that, I'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding between the city of Brunswick and Eckerd Connects.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Mr. Mayor, I got
Oh,
one
sorry.
question. Ms. Lee, I'm super excited about this program and getting to know it a little bit better. I would encourage you to, and I'd love to connect later. I don't know if you've had a relationship with Joint Water and Sewer in the past, but I serve on that commission thanks to this commission and represent them. We have a lot of opportunities there at Joint Water and Sewer, and there could be a good match there. So connect with me later, and let's hope
Yeah.
to build that relationship potentially.
Talk to Ms.
as we-
McDuffie about that as well,
Okay.
because in the beginning, they were telling me there's positions that's been open for years
Yep.
and they just want someone young to grow with the position.
Big time.
So,
We have a
yes.
lot of wonderful staff that have served 15, 18, 20 years that are retiring. And we need people to jump in and play in the water with everybody else. So thank you. Yeah,
Thank
appreciate
you.
your hard work.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to updates. Number 10, Mary Ross Waterfront Park Fender System Repair, Director Albertson.
This is just really an update on a repair. Over here at Mary Ross Park, you probably know, in front of the concrete dock that runs along the waterfront, there is a timber fender system, which consists of wooden piles driven into the water, and then 12 by 12 members, vertical and horizontal members attached to it. And the intent is for a ship to hit them before it hits the concrete dock there. Well, about April-ish, one of the American Cruise Line ships did that, hit the fender system, damaged it, actually broke about an 80-foot section loose there. It ended up floating up the river, and we had to pull it out of the water up around the marina. But anyway, we've got a large damaged section out there. We went to Allen and Graham, who's the contractor who installed that during our repair update project several years ago. They gave us a price of $145,550 for those repairs. We've talked with American Cruise Lines. They're okay with that price. We've coordinated for Allen and Graham to bill American Cruise Lines directly. So we're really out of the loop other than just coordinating the work, making sure the schedules are such that Allen and Graham can get in there and work and they have the access that they need. Other than that, the cruise line is going to take care of the cost and everything. So really just kind of an update to let you know what's going on with that project there. If you see work out there, that's what's happening. So.
Questions or comments? Hearing none. Thank you, Director Albertson, on that one. The next one is Marside and Liberty Ship Park dock repairs.
Okay, this one has to do with docks on the other side of town, but these are hurricane damaged docks. As you know, behind the Marside restaurant there's a floating dock, which is used primarily by the Lady Jane shrimp boat, the shrimping excursion. There's a fixed dock that goes out to a floating dock. It's about 180 feet long, I think. But over the storms, that dock has been displaced a little bit, and it's become difficult for the shrimp boat to dock, also unsafe for his customers to use getting on and off of his boat. So that dock needs to be realigned or brought back to its original alignment. And in doing that, bringing it back to original alignment, we would have to extend the fixed dock portion a little bit. So part of the scope of this project is that realignment, driving some new piles to stabilize that, and then extending that fixed dock. And then the other part of the project is down at Liberty Ship Park. There's a smaller floating dock adjacent to the boat ramp there. It's a two sections of dock there, and through the storms, the hinge between those sections has been damaged. Also, there's a rub rail that goes around the docks to keep boats from scraping. That has come off of there, and several of the mooring cleats are broken. So that part of the project includes repairing that hinge, the rub rail, and those mooring cleats. So we put all that together in a project, put that out to bid. We got one bid back on it from Marine Co., which is a local contractor here. Their bid for the total project was $129,690. Approximately $100,000 of that is the Marshside dock. About $18,000 is the Liberty Ship portion, and then there's about a $12,000 contingency built in there. So as far as funding, ALEC and the Emergency Management Agency have been working for FEMA through this. At this point, he tells me that they have definitely committed for a total of $54,000 for the repair of these projects. He expects the remainder, the balance, to be funded, but I understand there's not a commitment, 100% commitment on that at this point. So I guess I have this contract ready for approval if we want to do that, or if you prefer to wait on the funding. I was hoping Alec could be here tonight to answer the funding side of the questions more, but he's out of town. So
Any questions or comments on those repairs?
I have a question for, maybe this is for city manager. So the lease revenue that's being generated by Marshside, do we have an idea of what that current number is that we've collected over the last year, and or can those funds be applied for these repairs to improve this property or repair this property, for lack of a better word?
We budgeted $124,000 for this year, but that's budgeted in the general fund as a part of our operating. So it basically is not if I take it out of the general fund, I'm gonna have to put some money back in. And that's how the lease money, usually it's revenue that comes in for general fund.
Do you remember, I know it's probably just off the top of your head, do you have any idea what roughly an estimate of what the revenue is annually or was last year in the current lease agreement?
The last year, it was about roughly $30,000.
Okay. All right, so we got a little bit of a gap there, I guess is what my thought process is. Okay.
So I have a question. So basically 54,000 will come from FEMA for this, and that leaves a little over 75,000. I know Commissioner say we just tapped on it, but where exactly? Because I'm looking at, I know only 5,000, if I recall correctly, we have that Sid Lanier and Splash 6. Can that 5, because I think it was said that that's some with the dock improvements as well, can that 5,000 come from there? I don't know.
I think it's my understanding that we expect the full project, the $130,000, to be funded by FEMA.
Okay.
Now, I don't completely understand their process, why they only definitely committed 54 now and the balance is still hanging, but it's my understanding that we expect the full project to be
But just in case.
completely funded, right? Just in case, then, right.
So could 5, Madam City Manager, can the 5,000 come from the Sidney Lanier Splash 6 improvement for the Liberty Harbor dock? No.
Well, this is not the Liberty Harbor. This is Marshside.
But
So what I'll look at is to see if we have money in the dock fund and how that could be used. We do have a dock fund, and that dock fund has some funds in it from last year, prior year. So I'll look at those funds to see if they can be used from our side, but the Liberty Harbor money has to be used at Liberty Harbor.
Yeah,
Liberty
but
Ship.
it says $5,000 for Liberty Ship Park.
Yeah, if it's for Liberty Ship, we can pay it out of that.
Yeah, the
Yes.
$5,000.
Yes.
not the-
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
misunderstood your
'cause
question.
it wrote down $5,000, or maybe they was gonna pay $5,000, however. But I'm assuming the cost for the Liberty Ship Park dock is total damage is only $5,000?
No.
No,
$18,000,
Yeah.
oh, 18,000.
18,100.
Okay, 18,100 for the, okay.
Yeah, and whatever that is, it can be paid out of the Liberty Ship.
Okay.
Yes,
Which that
thank
brings down, if I go, about $58,000 left that we need to figure out if FEMA does not pay anymore. Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions?
Yeah, I just, in the finance committee, asked you, once we take these monies out of these areas, to provide us with an update on what we're gonna have from each of these areas
And
remaining.
we're getting that update, Ms. McDuffie, and I talked about this afternoon. I've put together some general numbers just from my records, but I want to get her and Mr. Perry involved a little more and get you more accurate numbers. So we'll have that either next meeting or the first meeting in August, if that's okay.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Director Albertson.
Yes, sir.
Executive session,
We
city
need to make
manager?
a motion on that, though?
No, it's just I think it says update.
We can make,
Well-
we could, if y'all wanted to, approve the contract.
Oh, I
don't
thought
know
that
if
was
y'all
just
are
an update, so I was reading
really-
it as that, so.
I mean, I
You
just wanted
guys
to
let me
think
know
there's an
what-
option in there to authorize you to sign the agreement. So,
Okay,
I mean, I'm personally comfortable with, I don't think there's enough, a significant enough gap that we can't find those funds if for some reason FEMA can't come to the table. And my interpretation is part of what FEMA is waiting for is an agreement on the contract and a final number.
Right, and Alec did kind of mention that if we show that we're kind of moving ahead with the Liberty Ship portion, that may spur them to go ahead and fund the remainder of it or get them off of their whatever's delaying them. So
Yeah, I think it's certain things that they want to see
see
you
see
move
things in motion.
that kicks in
Yeah.
whatever that emergency part is that's attached to that project
Right.
or in that reimbursement process.
So I'll make a motion then, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, to authorize you to sign the contract with Marine Co. in the amount of $129,690 to complete the dock repairs at both 1200 Glen Avenue, the Marshside property, and also at Liberty Ship Park.
here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
And we will now open it for a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of real estate and personnel. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned for executive session. We have returned from executive session and we have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the right-of-way acquisition for MLK and L Street intersection.
Here in the first and the second, all in favor show by sign of aye. All opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. With that, we'll open up a motion to adjourn. Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned.